But what's funny is that as creatives, like they should be thinking that way because they are architects. They built these wonderful cathedrals. They built these monuments. They've built these things from the ground up. And more importantly than they build them, they design them. They create them. They took them out of whole cloth or made them out of whole cloth from nothing. And so, so much of marketing is, I mean, and don't even think that this is strictly to creatives. The bottom line is most of the crap that marketing is getting over our own hurdles that we put in our way. It's all the ways that we limit ourselves. I've taken, a bunch of like business courses, and almost every one of them has the let's put it this way, they're probably 70% self-help and getting over self-limiting beliefs, all of them. And it's because the biggest struggle that any of us does is, I guess, feeling worthy in most cases. That's like you'll say like those elites that we were bitching about. They just don't have those self-limiting beliefs because they haven't limited themselves like that. They're used to functioning at a different level. Now, all of us are more than capable of doing that if we see ourselves doing that.
That's part of what the coaching has been about. It's equal parts accountability, which is, have you reached your goal this week? What is it that's, problem solving, troubleshooting? What is it that's you resisting? What are you having trouble with? How can we get you to hit your goal for this week? And positive reinforcement. You've got support. You got a person who's there every week, which I do with my clients every week, to say, you hit your goal. You wrote this awesome thing. Let's talk about it. That's great. Build the excitement up, and then sort of guide that into the marketing side of it. Because editing, I don't do any of the marketing discussions with people. It's strictly just me working on the book. The coaching is really where I say, okay, dude, what you just said, you need to turn that into an ad.
Oh, and I was looking at the Fund My Comic page for one of my guests and a guy I've talked to, in the marketing capacity. And while I'm looking at his page, it's like there's things that to me are screaming at me that should be on that page that just aren't there. And I'm like, we've talked for a half an hour about this character, and all the interesting stuff that you told me about that character is nowhere to be seen on this page. Like, oh, I've seen him. You did say something in there that was really important, and it's why I think another reason why so many people struggle, aside from like we're all working class Joes, is that you have clear cut goals that you're setting for people when you're trying to get them to the hurdle. Like, this is how many pages or what you're supposed to write in your week, your day, your month, whatever. And when you talk marketing, because it's so foreign to people, they oftentimes don't know what kind of goals to even set. And if you don't set goals, you don't have any idea as to whether or not you're reaching them. And like when I'm talking to a client, one of the first things I'm going to ask them is, what is a goal that you want to reach? Talking to a client that I work with, and I ask her the question, and the first thing she's like, I want Amazon Juju, so I want to get at least 50 reviews on this book. Now, understanding that that's a goal. Awesome. We can attack that. Like, we can solve that problem. What are the ways that we can incentivize people to go and, put a review on Amazon so that Amazon starts, pushing this book because, it's got a lot of people that are reviewing it. That's interaction. That means more people coming to the website. That's awesome. Sometimes it could be as like, hey, I want my book to show up every time somebody buys this other book. So how do we incentivize people to go and buy your book with that other book so that it starts picking up on the frequently bought with tab? There are problems that we can develop solutions for, and you don't do any of that until you have a goal in mind of something that you actually want to accomplish. And I think it's interesting, but maybe not, in that it doesn't matter what phase of the process and creation to distribution that you're in. Goals are everything. Like, if you don't have a goal, you do nothing.
That's why when on Twitter and on Iron Age Nights or any podcast or live stream that I get on, I tend to call everything that I work on for clients a project. I don't call it a book. I don't talk about it as a manuscript. It's a project because it's what it is. Until it's finished, it's just a project. And you have to look at marketing is a project. Your early design time before you even start writing, where you're creating your Bible, you're doing your world building, that's a project. They're all small projects that become one larger thing. And it's so that's an excellent point. Really good.
Well, and in that vein, like your career is a project. You're building this, and each one of those little building blocks is a bigger building block towards, eventually developing the career, the lifestyle that you want out of it. I'm curious, like, what are some reasonable first goals that you usually establish with people?
Well, it depends on where they are in the process, but I'll start with the beginning. If someone comes to me and says, I just have an idea and I want to make it into a book, the first thing that I do is we start with the goals, which is I want you to brain dump your ideas onto paper, onto a document. If we're all using the internet now, put it on something, not just in your head. Take it out of your mind, put it somewhere that you can look at it. This brain dump is a huge part of any creative process. Put every thought you have on it down. Then we go through and start looking at everything that's been put down. Then you form it into something that actually has function. You take those ideas, start building out the world, building out the towns, building out the environments, what the weather's like, things like that. You don't have to get too deep into it. And I have actually had to say, reel it back in sometimes because we all love to world build. But after that, the big one is consistency. That's the first goal. Can I get you to a point where even if it's only 100 words, you're writing 100 words a day? Me at the point that I'm at, I'm 1,000 or bust, because usually I end up staging my chapters at about 5,000 words. So maybe 5,000 or 10,000 at max. I don't like going further than that. So for me, if I'm doing 1,000 words a day for 5 days a week, and I'm taking my weekends off to do things with the family and, relax and let my mind settle down some, then 2 weeks I've got a chapter written. And that's where I level my goal at. But for starting out, which was the first thing that I learned, was just give yourself a daily goal. Sit down for 1 hour and try to get whatever you can on the page. If it's 100 words, cool. Keep that up, build on it. In a couple of weeks, push yourself to maybe 200 or 250 and just keep leveling up from
ratcheting
there.
Up.
And that's what I do with all my clients. We'll start where they're comfortable. I say just an hour a day. You find yourself 1 hour out of a 24-hour period, where you sit down in front of the computer and start putting words on the page, or sit down in front of your notebook